Our second figure of speech is a metaphor. So, what's a metaphor? Metaphor is a figure of speech that describes a person or object by referring to something that is considered to have similar characteristics to that person or object. Like simile, metaphor is also used to make a comparison between two things that aren't alike but do have something in common. A metaphor states that one thing is another thing. It equates those two things not because they actually are the same, but for the sake of comparison. But unlike a simile, where two things are compared directly using like or as, a metaphor's comparison is more indirect, usually made by stating something is something else. In other words, it is comparing two different things without using like or as. Simple difference between simile and metaphor is when you use a simile, you say that something is like or as something, and when you use a metaphor, you say that something is something else. For example, look at these two sentences. When you use a simile, you say, he fights like a lion in the battlefield. And the same can be said as a metaphor. He is a lion in the battlefield. Let's see an example. All the world's a stage, men and women merely players, by Shakespeare. A very famous quote from the play, As You Like It. Here Shakespeare is comparing the world to a stage and men and women to players or actors. One more example. We often say that life is one big roller coaster ride. In this sentence, life is being compared to a roller coaster ride, and when we think of a roller coaster ride, we think of the twists and turns, the crests and the troughs, the accelerations and the smooth sailing moments, and we relate the same experience to life in terms of various ups and downs, exciting and the boring moments. In short, life is a blend of joys and sorrows, like two sides of a coin. So, as a figure of speech, metaphors are extremely valuable in making an abstract idea such as life clearer by associating the idea with something concrete such as roller coaster that relates to one or more of the senses. Let's see one more. Climb up the success ladder. Again, success is an abstract thing, so by comparing it to a ladder, we can imply gradual progression, difficulties involved in reaching to the top. Since similes and metaphors both involve comparison of unlike things, one useful tip that will help you tell one from the other is a simile uses the words like or as when you're comparing multiple things, and a metaphor doesn't. It says one thing is another thing. So some more examples for better clarity. He's a cunning old fox. Here we meant to say that he is a clever, crafty person. He is cunning like a fox. Second one. The classroom was a zoo. The children were so noisy that they were behaving wild and crazy like animals in the zoo. Third one. The snow is a white blanket. The snow covered the earth like a blanket. So we say the snow is a white blanket. Next one. The children were flowers grown in concrete gardens. Concrete gardens make it really hard for flowers to grow. This metaphor can mean that the children grew up in really hard situations but have grown up and bloomed. Let's see metaphors on love now. Mother Teresa described love as: love is a fruit in season at all times and within the reach of every hand. She meant to say everyone can reach this love through meditation, prayer, sacrifice, and an intense inner life. Anyone may gather it, and no limit is set. Another metaphor on love. Love is a dog from hell, said by Charles Bukowski. For those who have bitter experiences, love is the dog from hell. So love is heavenly to some, but for some it's like dog from hell. Yeah, that's how he perceived love. So that's about metaphors. Hope you have understood it.